CBS Sports.
And first pitch crushing. Deep left field. This is way back. Walk-a-walk.
Got a fantasy question? Email fantasybaseball@cbsi.com. Get ready to win your league.
Where fantasy becomes reality.
Now here's Frank, Scott, and Chris.
You've got questions. We have answers. Hopefully. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball Today, a mailbag edition on Saturday, March 19th. Frank Stampfl joined by Chris Towers and Scott White. Scotty, making his return to the mailbag. How's it going, bud?
It's going great. Going great.
Going great. Full transparency, we're recording this on Thursday, St. Patrick's Day. Chris, will you be enjoying a Guinness or maybe another ice-cold beverage on this day?
I will certainly be having some sort of beer. I don't know if it'll be Guinness. I don't really know if the bar that I typically go to has Guinness. I can't remember. So we'll see. Maybe some Jameson.
Oh, whoa, all right.
To celebrate my Irish heritage.
Yeah. Are you
I
Irish?
don't have any Irish heritage.
All right. I was about to say, if you look real close,
Scottish if you go far enough back.
If you look real close at my beard, I have some red, some orange in here, but you've got to get close. I don't know if you want to get that close. Let's jump right in. We've got some Apple Podcast review questions. We have your emails as well, fantasybaseball@cbsi.com. And this first one is from I Feel Your Pain. My only for sure keeper is Mike Trout in round 1. Keep 5 of the following in a head-to-head points league. Can keep as long as I want for their previous year's draft value. Undrafted players count towards the latest draft pick that is open. Austin Riley, undrafted. Luis Robert, round 22. Spencer Torkelson, round 17. Zach Wheeler, round 3. Chris Sale, round 11. Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, round 13. Alek Manoah, undrafted. And Noah Syndergaard, round 23. All right, keep 5. Scott, what are we thinking?
Riley, Ohtani, Robert, Manoah, and probably Wheeler in round 3, though I could be talked out of that.
Yeah, that's one where I'm not sure Wheeler in round 3 is a surplus value right now. Obviously, if he's healthy, he would be. But not so much that it would be an obvious value anyway. So yeah. I mean, if you're gonna keep a 5th one, he's by far the best player, and so the value doesn't matter all that much. Like I'd rather have him in the 3rd than Manoah. I think.
Well, Manoah was one I picked, but like Syndergaard in round 23.
Sale in round 11.
Going to make. You want to make sure your keeper is impactful first and foremost.
Yeah, I think Riley, Robert, Manoah for sure, just based on the value. Ohtani around 13, I like it. Yeah.
If Sale wasn't hurt, it would be Sale over Wheeler for me. But with the rib strain or the fractured rib, there's no way you can do that.
Yeah, he's going to miss half the season at least, I think.
Yeah, it's tough. Let's go with Zach Wheeler there, round 3 as the last one. This one's from IMSHNE. Grade the trade. 12-team head-to-head points with 10 keepers. I just received Rafael Devers. I have now traded Marcus Semien and Framber Valdez to get Jose Ramirez. So now I have Devers and Ramirez at 3rd base and my corner infield spot. I was not keeping Valdez, but felt I could flip Semien for a points league monster in Ramirez. I also got a 12th round pick while giving my 13th. So, all right, let's just grade the initial trade here. It is Marcus Semien and Framber Valdez for Jose Ramirez, 12-team head-to-head points.
Yeah, that's
A.
Yeah, that's an A, I would say. Anytime you can get a first-round caliber player without giving one up.
Let alone
you do it.
Moving up and around. You know, he got a 12th for a 13th. So he's also swapping the worst pick for a slightly better one. So
we just did
A plus.
To put this in perspective, maybe this is a good way of doing it. So we just did a 12-team head-to-head points, same size and format, salary cap draft. And Ramirez went for $47. Devers went for $33. Framber Valdez went for 9. So just by that measurement, 47 compared to 42. And I don't even think that's necessarily the best way of looking at it, but it's another way of looking at it, and you make out ahead in that too.
All right, this next one is from Jaxico Burris. Dear DeGrom, Darno, and Den Decker.
Those are former Mets whose first names begin with lowercase d, or last names begin with lowercase d's.
Yeah, it's interesting. Den Decker.
I think Den Decker was a Met, right?
Yeah, I think he was.
So.
Sounds about right. Interesting. Need help selecting my 6th keeper. We keep 6 each year as our first 6 draft picks. 6x6 with OPS added for hitting. Innings pitched, quality starts, K per 9 as they're like added categories, but they replace some other things that, we're not used to on the pitching side. I'm keeping Bo Bichette, Brandon Woodruff, Starling Marte, Pete Alonso, Jose Altuve. I need one more. Yu Darvish, Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rendon, and Wilson Contreras. So that would basically be his 6th round pick. Is it worth it?
No.
Well, I wonder if everyone's keeping that many
Schwarber, if you're swapping average for OPS.
OPS,
or I guess you're not swapping it, you're adding OPS.
Right.
None of us would take Schwarber in round 6, right? It's as simple as that, isn't it?
If it was average if it was OPS instead of average, I think I would, because you're talking about a potential 900 OPS guy who might hit 240. But with average plus OPS, it becomes a little riskier. He does basically project to be very good or elite in 4 of the 6 categories here. Home runs, RBI, and OPS. It's just. He's a relative nothing.
It depends who you ask, obviously, because if he did project to be elite in all those categories, he wouldn't go as late as he does.
Sure.
Well, let's just say you only keep 5 players, and then you have your first pick is in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Everyone else is, keeping players early on. It's like, who's going to be the best available player in round 6? You know what I'm saying? So if it's a 12-team league and everyone's keeping 6, the options are probably not going to be great.
Well, it would just be like round 6 of a 12-team league. I don't know why you're making it more complicated than that. It's
because you're not losing.
It's not
prices aren't getting inflated because it's not
right.
Someone keeping Fernando Tatis for a 15th round pick. He's being kept for whatever he's worth.
Yeah. All right, so Scott, you're not keeping any?
No.
Yeah, I think I would pass on those.
All right. This next is from Chai Sox in 22. Can Tony La Russa make it happen? Who knows? Keeper question. 14-team head-to-head. 7x7. Need to keep 4, and they represent our first 4-round picks. My first 3 are easy with Trey Turner, Jose Ramirez, and Juan Soto. Have to choose between Kyle Tucker and Wander Franco, who has eligibility at both third base and shortstop, which I believe might be the standard on Yahoo. So that's interesting. We haven't really talked about that, but it definitely helps Wander Franco if he has third base eligibility.
It helps, but I don't think it comes close to bridging this gap unless you're talking about like the next 5 years. But even then, Kyle Tucker's 24. He's currently better than Wander Franco. And, I think Wander Franco will develop in time into an elite fantasy option or he has a very good chance to. But based on what we've seen so far, I do have concerns about what kind of fantasy asset he's going to be this season. His like 150 game pace last season was 15 homers and 4 steals, something like that. So I'm not, and like, it wasn't like the underlying numbers suggested that he hit the ball incredibly hard. Obviously he's 20, he should get better, but I actually don't think he's going to be a stolen base guy in the majors. I'm not counting on that from him, given the fact that he was like a 55% success rate guy and it's the Rays. So I think Kyle Tucker's the better option here.
It is a 7x7 league, and I assume that 2 extra hitter categories would elevate Wander Franco quite a bit.
Depends on what they are.
It's really just the 5x5 categories that, if he's exactly who he was last year, you wonder if it's going to be enough to live up to his ADP.
Well, I think it depends what those 2 extra categories are.
That's what I'm saying.
They
if it's
are.
OBP, I think it's probably pretty close.
hold on. It's runs, home runs, RBI, steals, strikeouts, total bases, OBP.
Yeah,
I think
those
OBP
last
is
three
probably
categories would definitely help Wander Franco's case.
I think OBP is a wash, and total bases is definitely Tucker.
Ultimately, it's not really an argument because Tucker's a first rounder already. So why are you giving up a current first rounder for a hypothetical first rounder?
Yeah, so I guess that makes it easy. We'll go with Kyle Tucker. This one's from Vilwalk79. Dear Earl, Frank, Brooks, Jim, Eddie, and Cal.
Those are Baltimore Orioles.
I definitely cannot name all of them, but
Earl
you guys
Weaver, Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken, and Jim
Palmer.
Jim Palmer. That sounds right.
I don't know when we've ever done a 6-man podcast though, so I don't know which of us is supposed to be which here.
That'd get pretty messy pretty quickly.
Yeah.
12 team mixed roto with 5x5 scoring using OBP and saves+holds. We can each keep 5 players for $3 more than the previous year's contract, leading to pretty high player values in our live auction. I have Vlad for $9, Jose Ramirez for $40, Walker Buehler for $9, and Freddie Peralta for $6. My thoughts on J-Ram is he'll be much more expensive in the auction, and I will be locking down third base. Am I right to keep Ramirez, or should I throw him back and keep an extra of the 2 keepers mentioned below? So depending on that answer, which one or 2? Miles Straw for $4, Jesse Winker for $5, or any of Alex Kirilloff, Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, Shane Baz, or Alex Wood for $3.
No, you definitely keep Ramirez. It's no question. And
It's an even better format for him. OBP instead of average.
Yeah. And even, even if it was just even if you weren't factoring in for inflation because of all the low dollar players being kept in a 12-team roto league, I would expect Ramirez to go for more than $40. So yeah, he might go for like $60 in your format.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's the kind of thing where even if you just look at the total value, $64 for Ramirez, Vlad, Buehler, and Peralta, even if you're paying a little extra for Ramirez, you're locking in 2 high impact bats, top 6 picks overall. And in this format, you can make a not unreasonable case for Ramirez as the number 1 player in this format, because you're going to get similar steals and homer production, probably similar runs and RBI from him as Trey Turner, but probably a better OBP, right? Or at least very close.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be close because obviously the batting average is lower, but the walk rate is higher. So it's probably close to a wash there. He does need one more keeper between Straw for $4, Winker 5, Kirilloff, Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, Baz, and Wood for 3. I think even though we're all not really excited about Winker, he's probably the best value at 5.
Yeah, I think you could consider Shane Baz as a now and future value, because I think he's probably valued as more than a $3 player by all of us. And obviously there's the potential for him to be a $20 player next year or more. So I think I might just go Baz.
What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think I agree with Chris.
I considered Straw just because OBP is his better format, so he is a better option here. And for $4, him and Ramirez could go a long way to making sure you don't have to worry about stolen bases.
It's a nice combo with Vlad too, because Vlad's not giving you any speed and obviously gives you so much power. So
yeah, so I would consider Straw as well. I might have Straw over Winker at $4 versus 5.
All right, this next one is not
OBP.
This next one's not a question, but I had to ask about it because I don't know about this story. This one's
wait, hang on a second. Winker's better in OBP too, even more so than Straw is. Winker's one of the best walkers in baseball.
Yes, he has a very good OBP. However, with Straw, the idea would be that you're locking in a potential elite stolen base guy who's helpful in OBP. That's my thought. Whereas Winker, yes, he's very good in OBP. He's going to give you a very good OBP, but as we talked about the other day, I think the counting stats might be pretty lackluster, and so I think there's a chance that Winker's like
the counting
a good
stats are
hitter who's an
obviously
OBP
gonna
specialist.
obviously going to be lackluster in Straw's case, though. I mean, it's
Sure,
we
but
just
it's the stolen base scarcity.
Tout Wars. My Tout Wars draft is 15-teamer, but it replaced OBP with batting average. Winker went in round 3. I don't think he should have gone in round 3, but he went in round 3, which goes to show you.
It's fair.
He gets on base a ton.
Do you know where Straw went in that draft, Scott, offhand? I mean, I'm sure it's much later than when Winker.
Much later, yeah. Round 10 or beyond, I'm not sure.
I saw a report recently, too. One of the beat writers for Seattle said that they expect Winker to play more against left-handed pitching this season. So he's very bad against lefties. I think we have enough of a sample of just his major league career against lefties. It's quite bad. So maybe that even brings down the overall numbers, the overall batting average and OBP for Jesse Winker this upcoming season. As I mentioned, this next one is not a question, but some kind of story that I've got to find out about. This one's from Frank Hippolito. Big fan of Scott White. I still smile whenever I think about that time he was chased down by a scary clown.
Oh my gosh. I do not smile thinking about that. That was one of a handful of moments in my life where I had the honest thought, I might be about to die here, like that. Probably 3 or 4 moments in my life like that. That was one of them. Yeah, it was terrifying.
Well, Scott, can we get some deets? Because I don't know the story.
Oh, I don't know if I want to relive it, but okay. So I was leaving. We lived in an apartment at the time. I was leaving my apartment for whatever reason. There was this tree right outside between the apartment and where my car was parked. I glanced over at the tree, I guess, because I saw some color or some movement or whatever, and kind of standing behind the tree, like she was hiding. Like she was hiding, but the tree was too narrow. Like it's like a skinny tree. So it was a bad job of hiding, like kind of pretending like I'm hiding, but I'm not really hiding, and it's this clown made up all like scary, like though, like scary facial paint and everything, like purposely scary looking clown. And I look at her and she grins at me and she starts walking toward me. And I freaked out and ran. Because that's a rational response, right?
Was this Halloween or just like a random day?
No. But do you remember in the news a few years ago, it was like this trend of like these packs of clowns terrorizing people. You remember?
That sounds familiar.
And this happened when that was going on.
I don't blame you, man.
I mean, it was broad daylight, but still. That's what happened.
Jeez.
This was like 4 or 5 years ago.
All right, Chris really liked that one. Chris is like falling out of his chair for those watching on YouTube right now. YouTube.com.
I'm pretty sure I had the exact same reaction the first time I heard this.
It was terrifying.
It is. Not even Halloween either.
And the thing is, like, I didn't know, like, I ran back to my apartment and I'm like, why would I run here? This is just leading the maniacal clown back to my family. Like, I didn't know what to do. But the clown came and knocked on our door and my wife answered, even despite my pleas for her not to. and it was the neighbor. It was just the neighbor. I don't know why the neighbor was dressed up as a clown.
That adds a whole nother element to the story.
Well,
like
you know how it is when you live in an apartment. Your neighbors are constantly changing. It's not like we were having block parties or anything. But yeah, I know what to tell you. It was lucky to make it out of that one.
I'm happy you did. Here today. We need you on the pod. We need to answer more questions. So we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, emails here, Fantasy Baseball Today. All right, so let's answer some of your emails. fantasybaseball@cbsi.com. That is the letter I. This one's from Elliot, Dear Wayne, Derry, and Squirrely Dan. Wayne.
This is one that I feel like if I knew it, I would know it.
If you know, you know.
It looks like something called Letter Kenny. No idea.
Oh, okay.
How
I have friends who are very into that. I've never watched it.
No idea. How much do you guys think about, quote, stacking when making your picks as a draft progresses? As in choosing two batters on the same team that are close in the batting order might mutually benefit from the RBI and runs produced in a single play. I'm guessing Chris has looked up some math on this somewhere on how much of an impact it really has. Of course, this comes to mind because I was able to keep Trey Turner this season, and now I'm wondering if I should be aggressive in getting Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts in the second round. I also think there may be opportunities later in the draft to stack Yankees or Blue Jays. I had Lindor and J-Ram in 2018 and felt like I was constantly experiencing double happiness. Do you find yourself reaching for players in a draft that would give you a stack?
No, this feels like more of a fantasy football thing.
Well, it's the way I would look at it is it potentially increases the total upside of your team if Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman both have high variance or high outcome seasons, but that would also be true if you just had them on your team, right. I think where it can make more of an impact would be in, obviously DFS is where this concept really comes from, but also weekly leagues. You could have scenarios where you have an especially good week because you have players on the same team who all go off at the same time. However, it shouldn't be more than a tiebreaker. I think Freddie Freeman is fine to draft in the second round. And if you took Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts at the 1-2 turn, I think that would be a perfectly reasonable thing to do. But that's also because I have them ranked that high. It's not because you have Trey Turner. So it's a very minor tiebreaker at best.
The idea behind it in DFS is your if that team happens to have a great night, then your team will benefit. But when you're talking about a full season, the context of a full, players are going to end up with the numbers they end up with, irrespective of what. I mean, baseball's kind of weird because it's a team sport, but it's also an individual sport. So every player does what he does independently of what's happening around him. And there's some with runs and RBI. There's some. There's some degree of lineup context mattering and all of that, but not to a major degree.
The biggest thing is those things are already baked into their prices.
Right.
So in a season-long roto especially, I don't think it really matters at all. Except that it, I guess, slightly increases the chances of a truly huge outcome for your team, I guess.
Now, you brought this up recently, Frank, that you've had times before where you invested in too many Rockies hitters. And so when they were on the road, your whole lineup suffered. So there may be something to that very specific scenario where, that one park where everybody's much worse on the road than they are at home.
Or you could envision a scenario where the Phillies draw the short straw and they end up having to face Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom every single time they face the Mets, in all 6 series that they play against them. But I don't know, even then
you can't anticipate that in the draft.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point that you bring up, Scott, especially in head-to-head leagues with, any kind of weekly scoring. I remember there was one year I had either 2 or 3 Rockies hitters on my team, and it just, when they were on the road, it just completely sank me. So I would say keep that in mind when playing in weekly lineups. Too many Rockies could be not a great idea. So it's kind of a slippery slope. You don't want to put too much value. Obviously, you want to target hitters on good teams, but again, that's baked into their price. Use it as a tiebreaker, but not much more than that. This one's from Andrew in Norwich in the United Kingdom. Hi, Boomer, Monkey, and LaFonda.
I looked this up, and I know what it is now that I looked it up.
I
These are Mark Maron's cats. Mark Maron, the comedian and podcaster, who
Gotcha.
ends his podcast WTF by shouting "Boomer lives." That's the context in which I understand it.
Gotcha. All right. Love the show. I have a couple of questions. I play in a standard 5x5 Roto League, except it saves plus holds. Should this elevate those relievers in committee situations, as if they don't end up being closers, they are likely to pick up holds? And if so, anyone you'd recommend?
Oh,
So,
Andrew Kittredge immediately comes to mind.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
it
two-thirds
does.
of bullpens in baseball, basically.
It does. It's always worth pointing out that holds are not accumulated as quickly as saves are. Like the saves
Yes.
leaders are always going to be higher than the holds leaders by
There were only
over 10.
only three relievers with 30 plus holds last season.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
even worse than saves.
So it's not they're not equal. Just when they're combined into one category, that doesn't mean they're equal. But yeah, I think
But it does broaden the pool of potential options.
Yes,
because it takes someone like Devin Williams and makes him a good source of holds with the upside to be a great source of saves plus holds, which is what someone like Paul Sewald had last season when he had 11 or 14 saves, something like that.
And specifically, I think it elevates the value of the guys who are at least going to factor in the closer role, even if they aren't the true closer. David Bednar, maybe, would be
Giovanni Gallegos.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't last, which I think there's a good chance he's just more or less the closer, but if he doesn't last in that role, which is possible as well, then he'll be getting a lot of holds.
The Mariners guys too. I mean, Ken Giles, Diego Castillo, Paul Sewald.
Yeah,
I think are in that mix. A few other names. The Marlins situation. I've seen some rumbling, some whispers recently that they may want to work Anthony Bender in there. So whoever doesn't win the role, I guess, Floro or Bender, they should provide good ratios regardless. Not that they're on a winning team or anything. I think more often than not, like you want to just in this format, you want to target relievers that have lots of strikeouts, good ratios, and are on good teams because
basically
they're probably going to give you either holds or saves in that scenario. So
in a saves plus holds league, I think basically what it does is it just makes those elite non-closers more valuable and it pushes them closer to the elite closers. So, if someone like Devin Williams, if you think he's going to throw 70 elite innings and get 110 strikeouts, he might end up with 10, 15 fewer saves plus holds than someone like Giovanni Gallegos, who, if he stays the closer the whole season, but it dramatically shrinks the gap in value between the two of them. And I think it probably makes the elite closers less valuable. In a saves plus holds league, you shouldn't see this mad rush for the handful of sure thing closers that we usually see.
All right, he does have a second question. I've been doing my standard draft prep, and as always, I find it easy and interesting to get excited about the top 100, 110 picks. Then I hit a bit of a wall and look at players who are just a bit blah. I tend to find my mind wandering to those deep sleeper / breakout guys and can find myself getting interested and exciting again. In drafts, I always look at this stretch 110 to 200-ish and just knowing nothing about them and not being excited to take them and making bad choices on the spot or reaching far too early for my sleeper / breakout guys. How do you get interested in this tier of players? What do you look for at this range? This isn't the first time I've heard this too. I've had some other people tweet at me saying like, they look forward to drafting picks 200 rather than like the 150.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% feel that way.
Yeah.
And so it's because the further down in the draft you get, the less difference there is between each round. Like once you hit probably this range, your chances of any given pick hitting are probably no better than a coin flip. And you're probably going to drop a decent amount of the guys you draft between 120 and 200 anyway. And so, it's
that's why I've always subscribed to a stars and scrubs approach in auction salary cap drafts because of precisely that. I mean, you could spend $12 on a guy that you're likely to drop, or you could spend $1 on a guy you're likely to drop.
So I think A lot of it depends on what your team build is. I like taking pitchers in that range personally. My preferred draft strategy is probably 2 pitchers in the first 100 picks, 2 or 3 maybe, and then I start loading up on the higher upside pitchers that I like in that range, like Trevor Rogers if he lasts, Tyler Mahle, fill in the blank with your personal picks, Patrick Sandoval, Alex Cobb.
Yeah.
But that's usually just because pitchers are so volatile, and the historical data suggests that there isn't that much difference between like the 60 to 100 range at starting pitcher than the 100 through 140. And so that's generally my approach.
And you all, in our recent mock draft, Chris, I think you ended up taking like O'Neal Cruz in round 13, and there was somebody that you elevated significantly like that. I can't remember now. We were kind of giving you a hard time about it.
I think it was Carrasco
on the YouTube channel. Yeah,
I think it was.
But it's
get your guys.
There comes a point, and I don't know if it's quite there. It may be a little after that for me, but there comes a point where just take the guys you want most. Particularly if it's high upside guys like that, particularly if it's shallower league like that, and not worry so much about ADP. I mean, you think about ADP because obviously you want to maximize the return from every pick, and you're trying to like create this perfect path to the end of the draft where you get everybody you want at the most optimal place to get them. But what naturally happens as draft season nears opening day is those guys all tend to get elevated because somebody like Chris did in that mock is just like, screw it, I'm going to take him because I want him.
Yeah, ADP matters a lot less in the last week of drafts. And this is true in every sport. If you do enough drafts, you'll notice that, most of your first, most of the drafts are pretty predictable. And you can say, all right, this guy's going to go in this range. Once you get to the last like week and everybody's been drafting forever, and it's, we tend to draft more of our leagues that we're playing out. That's when you start to see people just like, screw it. I'm not going to play the game and risk missing out on a guy who I really like. I'm just going to go get the guy. And
it drives me nuts. My last few teams I draft are always the ones I feel worst about because like people stop following the script, and so I don't know what to anticipate anymore.
I think there's a philosophical thing where you talk a lot about how you rank, not just in the order that you think guys will finish, but where you need to take them. Right. And so you try to avoid what I did with O'Neal Cruz, where I moved him up to 150, because that's the range where it's like, okay, I'm going to get O'Neal Cruz, and I like the player, and I like the upside, and I'm just going to make him a priority. And so, I think that's a philosophical difference. But once people start going off script, like the head-to-head league we did last week, when every single pitcher was drafted seemingly, and like in the first 10 rounds.
Yeah, we were taking like Dane Dunning at the end of this 12 team.
I think I took Patrick Sandoval in like the 10th or 12th round or something, which is way before his ADP suggests. But there also has to be that flexibility. So, it also depends on how the draft is going.
All right, this next one is from Ben. Dear Chris, Robert, Chris, and Mark. Those are
kids in my second grade class. I don't know.
Marvel superhero actors?
Are those that's the Avengers, the OG original 4. Big 4, I guess.
Head-to-head league, 5x5 with OBP instead of average. 12 teams. We keep 5 each with no cost. So assume top 60 and ADP will be kept. My keepers are Trout, Bichette, Corbin Burns, and Paul Goldschmidt. Should my 5th keeper be Salvador Perez or Josh Hader? I'm scared to keep a catcher because I've kept Sanchez and Real Muto in 2018 and 2019, and both times have gotten burned.
Did Real Muto burn you in 2020?
2019. He was like a high 700s OPS bet. So I guess
like Salvador Perez was obviously better than. So in 2020, JT Real Muto had an 840 OPS. It was a career high 840 OPS. So I don't know. I don't know why he's saying he got burned keeping Real Muto in 2019, but I mean, like Perez is in a different class than Real Muto was then, or Sanchez was the year before. Like they may have been the top ranked catcher going into the next season because somebody had to be, but like Salvador Perez is
we
just
all
so
have
far ahead of the
we
crop.
all have Sal above Goldschmidt, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I definitely do.
It's an OBP league, so it's worth mentioning Salvador Perez does
Sure.
lose value in
That
this
does
format.
hurt Sal a little bit, but there aren't that many catchers who are helpful in OBP, so I'm not sure it changes. But yeah, he is a legitimately bad OBP guy. He might, I mean, he was above 300 OBP last year, right?
Yeah, but not.
But like,
I think it was like around
barely.
320.
Yeah,
it was 316.
there you go.
Not great, but yeah, we'll go with Salvador Perez. This next one is from Nick. In a 10-team head-to-head points league with daily lineups, if you think the calf is healed, is it fair to consider Mike Trout over guys like Vlad and Jose Ramirez? 10-team head-to-head points, daily lineups.
I can't confidently say Trout will be worse than those guys. No, he feels riskier. But he's been the best hitter in baseball for the last decade when he's been playing. So, and when you're talking about a points league where it doesn't really matter if the guy gives you steals, then it's easier to justify Trout over Ramirez in that case. So look, if you're really confident, if you're really not gonna, if you're not that worried about Trout's health, then it's fine to do this. But I feel like you need to have a little bit of concern there.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you guaranteed every player was going to play 162 games, Mike Trout might just be the number one pick. He's still like that good of a hitter, especially in a points league.
Yeah, especially in a points league.
I like Scott said, there's risk, and obviously there's risk for everyone. But Ramirez in particular has not had many injury issues. Vlad has had a couple over the course of the 3 years he's been in the majors, so I don't want to say there's no injury risk there. So I don't know if you have to take Trout over those guys. And in a 10-team league, like, he might just be there in the second round.
Not late in the second.
Not late in the second, but he could fall to like 15, depending on where you're picking.
It's possible.
Just give me a name for this second question. In round 2, which injury risk are you most eager to draft? Ronald Acuna, Jacob deGrom, Shane Bieber.
Well, I have Acuna ranked highest of them, so Ronald Acuna.
Even in a points league?
Points league?
Even in a points league. DeGrom might be ahead of him in a points league.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I do have DeGrom ranked ahead of Bieber, but he says eager to draft, so I'll say Bieber.
All right. This was from Anthony. Dear Johan, Francisco, Brad, and Jim.
Those are pitchers from the mid-2000s Twins.
Santana.
I don't know if were they all starters? Francisco Liriano.
Brad Radke.
Was he on that era?
Jim?
I think he was around then still. Yeah.
Jim something. I don't know.
All right. Are you at all concerned about players like Trevor Story, Carlos Correa, etc., who remain unsigned in terms of slow starts this season? Would this be any reason to drop them in the rankings? Do you feel differently about starting pitchers who remain unsigned?
Well, all the big starting pitchers have been signed now. I think like Michael Pineda is still out there, but nobody were that interested in fantasy. Zach Greinke was the last one. So I don't think I worry about them any more than any other pitcher who's basically getting 3 weeks to ramp up since they have signed. Players who haven't signed at all yet, look, the longer it takes them to sign, the more concerned I'm going to be. But I don't think we're there yet. I mean, by the end of this weekend, they may have all signed.
Yeah, I've heard some whispers about Trevor Story's elbow. Apparently dealt with an elbow injury last year, and some people being worried about that. So I don't know. Maybe teams are worried as well.
I'm looking up the mid to late 2000s Minnesota Twins pitchers, and I was reminded of a fantastic baseball name, Boof Bonser.
Boof Bonser.
Long live Boof Bonser. I can't figure out who Jim was, though.
Jim. Yeah, I don't know.
This was your home, Daddy.
All right.
It was Brad Radke.
Hey, we got a little Scott White Jr.
Yes.
there on the broadcast.
Yes, we do.
Let's we'll hit one more and then we'll
He
get
had
out of here.
something very important to hint to me. A piece of paper he found on his bedroom floor.
Is it another drawing of Freddie Freeman?
No, it's not. That was not his drawing. That was the other one's drawing.
This one's from Scott Wolf. Hey, guys, real quick. I have the number 4 pick in my draft. Head-to-head categories, OBP instead of batting average. And my plan was to take Jose Ramirez if he's available. But I just noticed Mookie Betts has second base eligibility on Yahoo. Would you take a dual eligible Mookie over Ramirez, or is that getting too cute?
I would take Ramirez. Too cute. Second base isn't that bad.
I agree. It might be closer for Chris. Chris, I know you're very excited about Betts.
I think Mookie Betts is going to have a big bounce back season, and OBP helps, certainly. But no, I think I would still take Ramirez over him.
All right. We are sweeping the floor. Jose Ramirez across the board. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching this mailbag edition of Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again on Monday. Bye-bye.